a large proportion of filmmaking is solution finding.
Always. For me, it's all about using your environment, using what you can to film, using the truth of your surroundings. Il Funghetto, the restaurant where we shot that scene, was an interesting one for us because I expected it to be a quiet night and it was noisy.
Yeah. That was tough as well because you're like, this goes into the whole guerrilla filmmaking, doesn't it? It's like if you're utilising everything you've got around you and you're utilising the fact you've got a bit of a connection with those guys, can we film here, do a bit of promo, that kind of thing. The good thing is you've got the space.
Yeah.
The bad thing is you've got no control over some of the external factors.
Yeah, sound.
Sound was the big one. And especially, I think that was quite a long day as well. So added to the fact that it's a bit loud, everyone's a bit tired, little mistakes are happening here and there.
Yeah, and I remember you had a lot of trust in me that night because you couldn't hear the dialogue.
I couldn't hear anything.
So for me, that scene was one of the most poignant moments in the film for Charlotte, Lindsay's character. And there's a switch in that scene that if it didn't happen, the stakes of the film wouldn't hit the mark that I needed it to hit in that moment. Yeah. And we were so distracted by sound, I had to be on it with the headphones, focusing on her and Sule. And after I cut it, it's one of my favourite scenes.
It's visceral.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you sent it to me and I saw it back, I thought, God, that's visceral. I felt like uncomfortable.
It was really interesting. I went for a run this morning and I stepped outside and one of my neighbours, hadn't seen in a few years, stopped the car. She saw me with her daughter and they asked, "Oh, what are you doing?" They asked about transference and that it'd been shot here and what are you doing now? And I said, "I'm making a film called To Love A Narcissist." And they went, "Ooh, I've had one of those." And I was like, everyone says that.
Yeah.
Immediately when I say the title, everyone's like, they're on it. Even her daughter was like, "Oh, ooh." And everybody assumes, you get two reactions. One is, "I've had one of those." The other one is, "It's a good title." And I don't know what's going through their heads. But what I've just, sorry to cut you off, what I've observed is it's highly unlikely a real narcissist goes, "Oh, that's me." Apart from a couple of people have said it to me.
Yeah.
They've said, "Are you making a film about me?" A couple of people have said that to me. I've had an email and somebody straight in my face.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
just
interesting.
A friend.
Yeah.
Everyone else observes it as they've been with a narcissist. It's never them. And actually what I've learnt about this film is that if there's a narcissistic pattern cycle, whoever the main apex narcissist is, the other side of the relationship cycle, the bond, starts to develop narcissistic traits.
Yeah.
To survive.
It's so fascinating that you can kind of mimic or you mirror, don't you? You mirror how someone else is reacting and behaving and you can take on their personality traits. So that's kind of frightening then. So you can have a faux narcissist in a way. Someone that's like developed all of the features of a narcissist. Learnt them all.
Rather than inherently, because I've been reading about, and we're going into the character of the film, or the plot of the film, I've been reading about, is it learnt behaviour, narcissism, or is it something that's happened to you through trauma? But actually there's now evidence at 80% that it's handed down gene of some sort.
Wow.
That blew my mind.
Wow, that is interesting.
So I'm not a professional, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I came across that with one of the doctors that is a sort of narcissist survivor specialist that I've been doing research through, suggested that it's an inherent character defect that's handed down. A disorder.
And considering how many people then have picked up and said, "Oh, I've been with one of those," or "That's interesting." Yeah. It's kind of fascinates people regardless, doesn't it? That kind of like side of like humanity.
That's right.
It's quite an interesting thing. It's quite a compelling thing to like watch and listen to.
Yeah.
I remember I did work for a narcissist once and it was fascinating.
At what moment did you think, I'm dealing with a difficult character here?
I was hired to make him a reality TV star within his organisation. He wanted me to like make a TV show. about him. So he wanted me to film everything and sort of like construct a strategy for how we're going to get it onto YouTube and then eventually onto TV. And he hired me for that and then didn't listen to anything I had to say. And we did everything his way. And against sort of like advice from everybody, including myself, we went for his way. And when everything didn't work, he would take my ideas and repitch them as his ideas and also blame me for the previous, what it was, 3 weeks of no development. I think when I noticed it specifically, probably on the first week though, because he was just, everything about him was just off. Yeah. There was an annoyance as to why I didn't know every single piece of equipment that he owned in the first like 2 or 3 days. Wow. And how to use every single piece of equipment.
And that's the key, isn't it? Annoyance.
Yeah.
That's the term. When somebody starts getting annoyed at you in an unreasonable way for little things, you start going, hang on a minute, there's something not quite right here, because this is unreasonable now.
But then you second guess yourself, don't you? Because then you're like, oh, well, then you get the imposter syndrome must come in.
That's right, that's the key.
Twice as hard, right? Because then you're like, hold on, you've already got this like simmering imposter syndrome anyway, and then someone's picking up on everything, and you're like, fuck, maybe I am an imposter. But then you're not.
You're never an imposter of yourself, but what it does do is it makes you question your reality and your stance, which there is room for that, and that's why we're able to have conversations. But when it digs all the time, and it starts affecting your self-esteem, you know you're in a toxic relationship.
Yeah, it just chips away.
Yeah,
very small. It's like the death by 1,000 paper cuts, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. I like that. When I go for a run, a location might come into my mind first, and then I think about how the character might work in that location. But for me, it is always character based. And then now, third feature in, I'm just thinking, how can I film this in a way that's not complicated? So using my own apartment, can it work? Can this apartment work with the character? Yeah, it can. I can make that work together. Fuse them together.
So narrative first, idea creative, character first.
Yeah.
Sorry. Right. Character first, then how to put the character in a narrative.
In the real world.
In the real world, and then try to fit that in the locations that you've got available to you.
That's right. And so I'll have an idea. So I never thought, for example, Il Funghetto would be a good spot. And then I had no other options. And then I thought, can it work? And I didn't know that. And I know this in my brain now, which is I don't know until I lift the camera up with you, look through the lens. How do I adjust that? How can I make that work? And that's when it comes together. So once you've got the character and you're really secure with that character and you put them in the framework of the story that you've created, the rest you've got to go, how does this look? Because whatever you've imagined, it's never going to be exactly the same. I'm aware of that.
And I would say that probably, I don't know what percentage, but a large proportion of filmmaking is solution finding.
Always.
No matter how well you plan everything, something's going to not quite go right, and you've got to work out how do we fix it?
Yeah.
Quickly as well.
Yeah. Also relationships. We've built a good relationship where we're able to pass information back and forth, and it finds a place that works. If information's been offered and one, I don't know, and there's friction, you're in trouble early.
Oh yeah.
You're in early problems, and you've got to figure out how, and is it worth working through that?
Yeah. Especially
when I've got such a strong idea of what this needs to be like. You've stepped into that, and you've been on set, and you go, what about if I just move it here? And I'm like, yeah, that works. Thank you, man. That's brilliant.
It's kind of toying, isn't it? With toying with the environment and the different lenses and what different lenses can bring. Yeah. So like that 85mm we have on Lindsay's character. Yeah. I don't want to go too deep into precisely why, but there's a reason behind why we've gone for that lens with that character. Yeah. I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't go any deeper into that. But it's nice being able to like show you something and you say, I like that. Yeah. But also, I like the fact when I show you something and you go, do you know what? That's not for this one. That's not for this scene. Yeah. Because it's nice to get a bit more inside your brain as to why you're choosing the wider shot over the tighter shot, or vice versa.
Well, there's a point of discussion here. For example, the other day when we shot Lindsay and Andrea as sisters, we were really rushed for time. The light was going down. We had to keep the confidence up of the actors, knowing that we were in control of the situation, whereas we were not in control of the light. And we were having to adjust accordingly quickly. We had to do the setup, and there was a small reflection in the window that I now had to take care of because I love the shot. But we didn't have enough time to look really specifically through, and that's why it's important to keep shooting. Because if you keep worrying about the problems, you're not going to get enough footage in the can. Without footage in the can, you can't make choices. You're only making choices in your head, and that's irrelevant tomorrow.
Yeah.
What's relevant is what you've recorded. Can you use it?